All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for getting up on a Monday morning. Despite the fact that I'm the first presenter in your morning full of community organizations, I appreciate you guys taking the time. As Mel said, we're going to run through a little bit about who Vail Valley Partnership is. I'm going to go through that relatively quickly, but give you an overview of some of our programming, some of the things we do in the community. We will look at demographics, we'll look at economic indicators, we'll look at what the upcoming winter is looking like, we'll look at the airport. All of those different things are all embedded in here. If you have questions on a slide, on a data piece, on any of the things I pull up, just shout it out. I don't expect this as a shy crowd, as I look at Mike Budd. But feel free to do that as we go through. A little bit about us. I'm not going to read this to you. I think you probably know, or hopefully should know, who we are at Vail Valley Partnership. We're the Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Organization and Sales and Marketing Organization representing Eagle County. Why do we exist? What are some of the big objectives that we have? You can see those on the board, but it's really about representing the voice of the business community. It's really about the idea of community vitality and how do we help our people in order to help our businesses, in order to help our community, right? You can't have a strong community without strong businesses. You can't have strong businesses without strong people, without strong people. So that connection and interconnectivity between people, business, and community are some of the things that we do. Like I said, I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. Some of the focus areas, as I said, economic development, sales and marketing, business services, tourism development, advocacy, working to facilitate economic growth in Eagle County. Again, helping ensure that we have strong businesses that provide career opportunities and fill the needs of our local economy and support entrepreneurs through some of our small business programs and support our workforce through some of our workforce programs. From an advocacy standpoint, we're very active at the state level, at the federal level, and at the local level, advocating for policies that support our community. Last year was of interest to this group. We started and led a statewide coalition around short-term rentals and some of the legislation that was going on there to try and change the property tax from residential to commercial. So we built a massive coalition with hundreds of organizations, and that started from our office right here in Edwards. No one else raised their hand on that, and so we did, and we were able to defeat that pretty resoundingly. In Colorado, Mike might know this, 82% of bills that get introduced at the Colorado legislature pass. 82%. So when something gets introduced, there's a real good chance it's going to become law. Highest in the nation in Colorado. So yay us if you like more laws and more stuff coming from Denver. Oftentimes we're not. Sometimes we are. Oftentimes we oppose things. Sometimes we support things. But we're down there to represent Eagle County's interests and make sure that we're represented at a statewide level, and make sure that one size fits all solutions that might work for the Front Range and not for the Western Slope or the mountains or the Eastern Plains. So we have a whole public policy. It's a whole different presentation. I'm not going to get too much more into it than that. Tourism development. We'll talk about the airport a little bit later. We run the air service program there, the EGE Air Alliance. We also do group and meeting sales and work closely with Vail and Beaver Creek and Avon, even Minturn and Gypsum and Eagle to drive destination visitors and really work with meeting planners to bring as much of that kind of off-peak vitality as we can. The ski resorts do a great job doing what they do. We try to fill the niche in the middle ground there. Programs and events. We'll talk a little bit about this coming up, but we have a variety of different professional development event programs, apprenticeship programs, workforce programs, leadership programs, all designed to, as I said earlier, support the people that support our businesses, that support our communities. So that's who we are. I promised it would be short. Hopefully it was short enough. Demographics. Let's look and see what's happening with our population trends and some of the job trends here in Eagle County. You're going to see a little bit of different numbers on some of these slides simply because the different data, we aggregate and pull data from a variety of different resources, and sometimes they're not 100% aligned. But when you look at the trend line, all of this is available on our website, either at VailValleyPartnership.com or VailValleyMeansBusiness.com. A lot of the economic and demographic reports are on VailValleyMeansBusiness.com. But our total population, a little bit under 55,000. You see the age breakdown there. As we look, we've got a block there at the end with where we're at with the screen. But you can see the population growth over time, relatively stable, actually decreasing a little bit since 2020. Mike.
Question on the growth population. It's interesting, right now, we're seeing more real estate transactions in the Roaring Fork Valley than historically have occurred over the last 20 years. Is that percentage of our population significantly changing?
Not significantly changing. The Roaring Fork Valley makes up 16 to 18% of the Eagle County's population. So Elgibel and Basalt, part of Basalt is kind of cut in half, call it in half. And that part of the county makes up about 16, call it 16%. And it's been that way. It's been pretty stable over the past 10 to 15 years. It hasn't changed significantly as an overall percentage. But when you look at that, I mean, that's a significant number. That's 1 in 6 people in Eagle County living in the Roaring Fork. We don't always think about that.
One of the interesting dynamics is that land title through their September 31st showed 1,100 and some residential real estate transactions. The VBR through October 31st shows 800 and some real estate transactions. That's disproportionate from the historic norms and whatnot. And that's why I wondered, are we seeing more activity over there population wise than what has historically been occurring?
Not significantly.
Okay.
So little changes. Maybe I'd have to study it to know the exact numbers, but not statistically speaking, not significant shifts. So interestingly, when we look at our pipeline, when we talk about demographics, two really interesting components. One age under 18 and one age 65 plus. And you might have seen an article in the Vail Daily within the past week or two on the aging population in Eagle County and what that means. And the under 18, I just offended some people. It beats the alternative, Mike. And when we look at the under 18 aspect, our birth rate is decreasing. Our under 18 population is down significantly. When you look at the peak birth rate, it was 2007, right? So I have a daughter who was born in 2007. That's the highest. Every year after that, there are fewer kids born in 08, 09, 2010, et cetera. So our population under the age of 18 across the country has declined by 1 million people, right? Like these are real numbers. This is our future workforce. These are our future people buying real estate. 27 states lost population under the age of 18. Colorado gained a little bit over that same time frame, but the change in under 18 is significant when you look at that 2010 to 2020, and it's not any better as we sit here in 2024 because that birth rate, again, that peak birth rate in 2007. So what's that look like in Eagle County? The blue being a 2020 baseline and the orange being a forecast for 2030. right? This is coming from the state demographer. Looking at, and you can see by age group of where our change in population is coming from. And again, you look at the biggest decline is that 0 to 17, right? Partly because our birth rate is down, and the biggest increase is the plus 65 because there are people aging in place, right? So what does that mean for community? What does that mean for workforce? What does that mean for our service oriented economy? You see a little bit of stability in the 18 to call it 64, a little bit of growth with that, but a big shifts, right? A big shift in terms of our aging population and what that means for people being able to stay here, people being able to build businesses here, et cetera. So reflected in that graph there. And Mel, we can share this out with everybody. It's fine to send the report out for folks who want it. As we look, Mike, this goes to your point, I think a little bit more. When you look at the basalt representing the Roaring Fork component, and you see some of the change in population, you don't see these significant shifts in population from that part. Now that this doesn't, Elgibel goes into unincorporated, as does Edwards and Eagleville and Dotsero. Like that unincorporated component of Eagle County is almost half. About 45% of our population is unincorporated. So it's interesting maybe to look at Eagle or Avon and say, oh my gosh, but it's actually way more people in unincorporated. Elgibel, Edwards are being our biggest population center. So specifically, when you look across here, Gypsum is the only community showing growth.
Chris, what is that last column, please?
That last column is July 2023.
No.
And then the one that's covered is the change. The one that's covered is the change in that time frame. Yes.
Did you guys actually separate the unincorporated area so that you can see what those numbers would be for, let's say, Eagle Vale, Edwards, or not? Does it all get?
It all gets bundled in.
Because it would be useful if you could.
It would be super useful if you could. And unfortunately, we can't. Unfortunately, we can't.
And the county has never been zealous about doing that.
Yeah, yeah, it's, you can do some things, you can do some tracking for Edwards because it has its own zip code. But generally speaking, it's really difficult if it's not a municipality to get that micro level data. It kind of all gets bundled in, you know, and same thing, like Beaver Creek and Avon.
It's all the same zip code.
Eagle Vale, Beaver Creek and Avon are all the same zip code. So some of the data gets a little bit wonky when you, but Avon is pretty accurate because of they have their municipal aspect, everything else gets bundled. So the unincorporated stuff, I wish it was more micro granular on the data. Unfortunately, it's all bundled into that unincorporated aspect.
That's a big number.
It's a huge number.
Yeah.
That's why I prefaced it with it being a little bit challenging, but overall from again 2010 to 2020, you saw some growth. July 2020 to July 2023, you saw a little bit of a decline, right? We saw an overall decline in that population aspect. So a little bit about what's happening at each of those. Interesting, probably to this group, and again, we'll share this out because I recognize it's really hard to read, except for Barry, who chose to sit in the front, he can read it. But this is net migration. And again, this is a lagging indicator. We don't have more current. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was trying to point the bell. Can you collapse that?
Yeah.
Thank you. So try this too.
Yeah, we'll see if we can move the people there on Zoom to have a better view. I didn't want to touch it because I didn't want to break it. It's better if Mel breaks it. So this shows our inflow and outflow. Where are people coming to Eagle County from? That's what you see here, the net in migration. El Paso County, Montrose County, Adams County, Douglas County, Florida, New Jersey, Texas, Arizona, So you see some of our, yep, back here.
Are these full-time residents or?
Yes. Yeah, full-time residents. Yeah, this is immigration, people relocating from somewhere to have their full-time residence here, or what they claim as their full-time residence. Right? And then on the out-migration side, where are people leaving to? And again, you see it dominated by the Front Range, Boulder County, Summit County. Can I call Summit County Front Range now? Are they pretty much a suburb of Denver? I think you could make the argument they're a suburb of Denver.
Chris, how do you get that statistic?
This comes from the state demographer office.
I mean, where are they going to?
Based on like voter registration and car registration, and this comes from the state demographer. And they're pulling that information, so it's, if you were, as an example, registered to vote, you have your car registered in Eagle County. And then the next year, it was in Summit County, Arapahoe County. Again, you see it primarily within the state, when people are leaving. The top places they're moving are within Colorado.
So, Chris, on this, I mean, this is now 4 years old. How much do you think the fuel markets and the exit markets are gonna be?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the question, if you didn't hear it, was how much has this maybe changed since 2020 when this data was collected? And I would expect we saw a relatively significant shift. I don't think that our out-migration is going to shift significantly. It's still going to be dominated by the Front Range. But I think you might see some other states pop in there, because a lot of people left between 2020 and say 2022. They hit what I call the housing lottery and took off to be closer to family, whatever the case. And on the inflow, I think you probably saw some increase there too from other states, right? Our lifestyle, the remote work change that happened since 2020, et cetera. So it will be interesting to see how these change. We have a question over here, Mike.
Yeah, just an observation that's happened in the last 18 months on the Front Range. The two biggest school districts have closed 28 schools.
Right.
And so you're seeing in Jefferson County, close 18 of those, and they had about a 12,000 student decline in population. And then Denver just announced their 10 closures. And that's about the same, about 12 or 14,000.
Yep.
So there's a trend, obviously, in that area, and I'm not sure. I know we're seeing a decline in population in the school district.
Yeah.
And it's proportionately relatively similar,
Correct.
but we're not maybe as focused as they are.
Yeah, I think it's, that you see it in the birth rates, right? You see it in the birth rate data and you see it in the under 17 data. And these are statewide trends. We're not unique from those or insulated from those statewide or even national trends, right? So the Denver and Jefferson County closing schools, Mike said 28. I have no reason to believe it's not 28. I believe him.
It's 18 in Jefferson.
18 in Jefferson and
it's in Denver.
10 in Denver. So as they're closing schools, what does that mean for Eagle County? Well, we already closed June Creek Elementary and turned it into an early childhood center. The school district has given up land and space in Avon for an early childhood center that was earmarked and dedicated to the education school site. They declined that. So I think we're going to, I don't know that we're going to see closures. We might see some consolidations and some other moving pieces, but they're talking about it. The school district is aware of it. These numbers don't surprise them.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
All right, let's look at, yeah, please.
Sorry, on that last slide, on the outflow of people going out.
Yeah.
Eagle County, is there a specific age group mainly that is exiting the valley per se, or?
Historically speaking, it's around age 30. Right, and I don't think it's included in today's presentation, but I have data on that. Historically speaking, we see a huge bump in population around age 20 to 22 to around age 25 or 26. So we have a huge inflow, which makes sense. Those are our seasonal workers. They stay for a year or two. So we have a huge jump in population, call it age 20 to 25. Age 25, 26 to around age 30 is stable. We have about the same number of people coming and going. For everyone age 28 who leaves Eagle County, there's someone age 28 coming to Eagle County. Starting around age 30, and you think about it, housing, cost of living, having kids, etc. From 30 to 65, collectively, there's maybe one or two spikes each year that are different, but age 30 to 65, we see a net outflow of people. We see more 30-year-olds leaving, more 35-year-olds, more 40-year-olds, more 45, et cetera, all the way to 65. At 65, the numbers go above again, and we're attracting population age 65 plus. These are year-round people, or at least, again, primary residences. So we see, when is it happening? It's happening, we're seeing stability around 25 to 30, and we're seeing a net outflow age 30 to age 65 every year. Yeah, I know, that face is how I feel too. Like, oh gosh, that's not great. And it is, it's hard for community, it's hard for all the things that everyone here knows. Right? But that's the age that we see. I don't have that one in here. We do have that data. So if you shoot me an email, I can send you the full report. Labor force. So our unemployment around 2.8, around 35,000 people in our labor force, and you guys have an idea of where some of the biggest job sectors are. This is data from 2019 to 2023. Where are we seeing changes in jobs, right? And these are sectors. These are sectors, but it's health, health services, construction, real estate, local government, professional services, and we're seeing decreases in jobs in accommodation and food service and retail trade, and some of those jobs that are typically lower paying, harder to attract. You know, the housing crunch certainly hits those a little more than it does some of the others. So this is where you see we did see an increase in jobs in that time frame, that 4-year time frame through the end of 2023. But overall, relatively stable. When you look at 35,000 jobs, we increased by 800. That's probably okay. It's a stable growth, but it way over indexes in some of these areas. And with about 50% of our economy being recreation and tourism and hospitality, we're losing jobs in the biggest job sectors, right? Construction and health services are our next couple. So questions on any of that demographic information? Cognizant of time, so I'm waiting for Mike to leave. All right, so economic indicators, what's happening? A quick survey. Show of hands of who thinks the economy is doing fine. Who thinks it's doing okay? Okay. Who thinks it's in the garbage and terrible? Nobody. That's good. Who thinks it's amazing? Right. Some of you don't have any opinion. That's okay. And you're right. When we look at what's happening, it generally is doing fine. We're going to run through all these different economic indicators. There's some of the stuff we look at the partnership, some of the trends that we see over time. This is US economic growth. And when you look at where we're at, and the best way to look at all of these is trend line over time, right? There's going to be little fluctuations. You're going to see a time period that we don't like to talk about too much where everything was down. If you can't figure that out, let's have a cup of coffee. I'll explain what happened in 2020. It might be better to meet in the afternoon and have a cocktail. But you see, as we're going through the economic growth, and again, this is national data and forecasted data moving forward. You see economic growth still doing okay, right? In 2024 at 2.7%. which was better than 2022 and better than 2023, and forecasted to come down. This has nothing to do with the election. This data was done before the election. It's party agnostic. These policies are put in place years before that have impacts moving forward. So there's none of that here. These are the trends. It's still expected to grow, but under 2% economic growth is not robust. It's fine, better than no economic growth, but the target we really want to see is around 3%. At 3% economic growth, someone born today will see a doubling of the economy by the time they're in their mid-20s. Right? At 2% economic growth, they see a doubling of the economy in their mid-40s. That's a huge difference when you think about quality of life and you think about business success and entrepreneurial opportunities and the rest of it. So this 2% economic growth, it beats less. It's not awesome. It's fine, right? As I said, when we raised hands, who said it's awesome? Nobody. Who said it's terrible? Nobody. Who said it's fine? It's okay. Yeah, all those people were right. Household savings. Household savings has dipped a little bit over time, right? So when we look at household savings across the country, you see the historic average. This is mortgage debt, personal savings rate. You see the historical average is that dotted line. You see a little bit above, a little bit below. You see a huge spike, again, for that time frame that we don't like to talk about. People were saving more, they weren't spending as much. And then dip below that historic line. And when you look at the mortgage debt and the delinquency rates and the percentage of loans, you see that over time too. You saw the big spike in 2008, 2009 with the Great Recession. And again, you guys can see this. Again, the trend line over time is really what we're looking at. Federal Reserve, and what we're looking at from the Federal Reserve. You guys are very, very familiar with this. I don't need to talk to you too much about interest rates and the impact they have on things. I think the one piece I would say when we look at the rate, and again, trend line over time, we got spoiled, right? We got really spoiled. 2010 to 2015, truly historically low, right? Coming out of the 2020 and the pandemic, historically low, right? Over time, it's not terrible, right? We want it to be lower, generally better for everything for people with loans and the federal rate, but it's okay. Inflation. So what's inflation looking at? What are we seeing in terms of that? The lighter line at 2.5% is US inflation nationwide, and the lower line there at 1.9 is Colorado. So Colorado's inflation is a little bit lower than a national inflation rate. Obviously, you saw these huge spikes. We're coming back down to a more normalized level. The challenge with inflation, of course, is it's base building, right? It's cumulative. It builds on the base. It's not, when you look at it over time, every time you see an increase, it sets a new norm, right? So it's better that it's 1.9 in Colorado and 2.5, but we had these huge spikes of upwards of 9% plus, and that sets a new baseline, right? So inflation is certainly a factor. It's good to see it coming down. It makes people feel better when it's coming down. Everything's better when it is more normalized. But we're still digging out a little bit from that hole, which again is completely party agnostic, right? We had in 2020, we poured money into the economy. After the election in 2020, we poured more money into the economy. Both, if anyone said, oh, the inflation is Donald Trump and the Republicans' fault because of what they did in 2020, or conversely says, oh, it's Joe Biden's fault and the Democrats for what they did. No. Yes, it's both. Right? It's not one, it's not the other, it's both. And Congress makes those decisions anyway. So like, this is. Everyone deserves credit for helping get us through that time, and everyone deserves blame for the inflationary pressures they knew it was going to cost. Right? And so we're recovering. It's good. Joanne.
I believe you're part of the Colorado ski towns, is that right?
I'm not a member of Colorado Ski Towns, but I'm aware and engaged with them.
Yes,
Yes.
So this says this is for Aurora, Denver, and Lakewood.
Right,
So what do you think where we are in the resort markets?
yeah. It's a good question, and on the fine print here, this is US Bureau of Labor Statistics data, and Colorado is generally measured by the Denver Lakewood. Aurora used to be Denver Greeley Consumer Price Index aspect. It's what they measure for Colorado. It's the best indicator we have when we look at what do we think for the mountains. Our housing market over indexes everything. For the rest of our economic indicators, we're typically pretty darn similar. So, you know, our gas costs more, our groceries cost more. But do they cost more, relatively speaking, than they did in Denver or in Wichita, Kansas from 2020 to today? About the same. Our housing over indexes significantly. So that's where this is not a surprise to you guys. But on the other components of consumer products and inflation, we're really similar. Again, our baseline was higher, so it impacts us more. But as a percentage change, it's pretty similar.
Chris, do you have
Yes.
any statistics how we compare to other ski resorts? Not just in Colorado.
I do, I'd have to pull it.
Because that would be more interesting.
Mostly Colorado.
Yeah.
But we have some indicators. I'd have to pull the data. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Because those are real competitors for the labor market for people
Yeah.
who want to be in the mountains.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, when we look at our market compared to other ski resorts, we're glad we're not Jackson Hole.
Absolutely.
We're glad we're not Jackson Hole. We're glad we're not Aspen. From the standpoint of cost and availability and labor force impacts. You know, so we're actually relatively competitive. We're in a good position, and we'll look at some of the lodging data and
But
the
I think people
trends.
should know that.
Yeah, because we're generally in a good position.
One thing in relationship to what you're talking about, inflation. Eagle County population has been relatively stable, give or take a couple thousand people.
Yes,
Since back
2010.
2008, Eagle County's budget was about $30 million. Eagle County's budget proposed this year is $205 million. That's pretty significant that the taxpayers are gonna be hit with, because you got the same base paying tax.
Right. Yep.
Sorry.
But I mean, like, how is that established? No, how is that established?
Around 225 million compared to 2010, when the budget was about 30 million. It's a huge increase. They're funded by sales tax and property tax. So the growth is coming from the sales tax and primarily property tax. From a county standpoint, your local town governments are funded primarily by sales tax with very little property tax. Your county governments are funded primarily by property tax with a little bit of sales tax baked in.
And the unincorporated aspect of it is a big chunk of it, but.
Yeah, the unincorporated aspect is a huge chunk of it.
Yeah, so you get down to that, but it's an interesting dynamic because the taxpayers are about the same number of taxpayers to pay that.
Yep.
So that's pressure on those entities relative to income or whatever.
Yep. Okay, wage gain. So this is a piece of good news that people don't always feel as much. And we do have the mountain region states. So this is bundled across a bigger geographic portfolio. This is looking at the mountain region states: Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Utah, etc. The wage growth and wage growth of almost 6%. and consumer price index, inflation essentially at just over 3.3%. So you see wages starting around 2022, wages growing faster than inflation, right? Now we had that big spike in inflation. People don't necessarily feel this. Everyone's individual situation obviously is very different, but in aggregate across the region compared to our wages are growing faster than inflation's growing. That's a good thing, right? It might take a little time to catch up because of the base building we talked about, but wages growing, and that's labor market macroeconomic trends. You know, people are needing to pay more to attract and retain employees, right? Colorado is the biggest mountain region state, but when you look throughout, the same things are happening in Utah and Wyoming and other places.
What is the mean W2 income in Eagle County compared to where it used to be?
Yeah, median household income. Boy, you're going back in my brain now, I want to make sure I get the accurate numbers, and I'm going to give you ballparks with the caveat that these will be relatively right if the numbers aren't exactly right, okay? Our median household income now is around $130,000. Pre-pandemic, call it 5 years ago, our median household income was closer to 105. So it's gone up a good 20% in the past 4 years, ballpark.
And I think the W2 income on individuals has gone from about 49,000 driven by the hospitality industry back in 2010 up to just around 60.
Yeah, we saw a big spike. We saw a big spike in that. Certainly in the past 5 years. Because of remote workers. You need to be careful with the W2 data because 2020, 2021, our incomes jumped significantly. Everyone's like, oh, look, our incomes jumped. This is great for Eagle County. Well, what it was we had a lot less people in hospitality and tourism and recreation and accommodations jobs. Those jobs pay less. So the jobs that were being reported with an influx of remote workers, with healthcare, with the other sectors that pay a little bit more, those spiked as a percentage of the total, and it's normalized again, right? So it's normalized a little bit.
When hospitality does it, historically, our W2 income or median income were significantly below the state averages because of.
We are. Yeah, our W2 income is typically around 20% less than the state average. Because our labor force is statewide, our tourism and hospitality in that sector makes up about 10 to 12% of jobs. In Eagle County, it's about 50% of jobs. So those lower wages jobs are a bigger part of our portfolio, which pull down the average. But on average, and this hasn't changed significantly over time, we're about 20% under the state average from a W2 data standpoint. Okay, so the Colorado employment job gains by sector. You can look at this. This is statewide data. Just gives you an idea where jobs are coming from. We saw the Eagle County data a little bit earlier. We'll look at some macroeconomic indicators. This is consumer confidence index. This is one of the things that if I had one economic indicator to look at, certainly from a tourism and hospitality standpoint, which drives our economy, this is the one thing I would look at, right? I like looking at lots of them. If I only had one, this is the one I would pick. Consumer confidence generally indicates how people feel about discretionary spending, going on vacation, going on a ski trip, going on a mountain trip, et cetera. So we look at prior year is the blue, pink is the current year. So we saw those previous economic indicators that were all generally pretty positive. This one, yeah, a little bit less, right? Consumer confidence a little bit less, even though wage growth is up, even though inflation is down, even though some of the other indicators are really positive, this one's a little less positive. We want consumer confidence to be above the line. And certainly at least stable with the prior year, if not above the prior year, right? It means people feel better about the economy. This is a combination of a variety of economic indicators. So this takes everything into account. I think there's 26 or 28 different economic indicators. This comes from the conference board. Pink is the current year, and blue is the prior year. So we just saw consumer confidence was down year over year. When you look at all the economic indicators, 28 of them put together in one chart, you see that pretty stable for the past two years. We've had a little uptick, right, over the previous year, and good trends starting in 2022 that as we see on this chart. We want this to be above. We want current year to be above. When it's not, that's the recessionary times that we tend to see. Dow Jones, you know this, you see this. Dow Jones at or near record levels. Certainly on an annualized basis, this trend line probably not super sustainable, but hey, it's good for what it is. So let's look at a winter preview. I'm cognizant of my time. I'm going to look to you guys if you have questions on this and want to deep dive some of this. So how are we doing for the winter? What are we looking at for the winter season? This includes what's happening at the airport. This is super hard to read. This is our day-by-day occupancy. Looking at the winter season from November 1st to April 30th. Every single day, the black line at 0 means the same number of rooms occupied, right? So you see all these. That's good. That means occupancy is higher than it was last year at the same exact time. This data is as of October 31. So as of October 31, compared to last year, so we have some dips. We've got some times when we're down. We have some times that we're up. Overall, when we look at this data, occupancy is down 1%. This is our last chart here. Blue is this year's occupancy on the books. Red is last year at the same time. And that gray line is where we ended. That's where lodging occupancy was at the end of December 2024. Here's where we are this year. Here's where we were last year. There's where we ended. It's not a forecast. This, for example, for December is not saying that we will end up down 11% in occupancy. That's just where we were at this point in time. I don't have it in here because I just got the data last week after I had sent this to Mel. Election years. Take out 2028 because of the Great Recession, and take out 2020 because of the pandemic. But election years, going back in time, September bookings are down for ski resorts around 6%. October bookings are down around 12%. November bookings spike about 8%. So if you go back to 2020 and look at all the election cycles, take out the Great Recession, take out the pandemic, September is not a great booking month. People sit on the sidelines. October is a terrible booking month where people are like, I want to see what happens in the election. Then the election happens and people book in November because they're like, you know what? It doesn't much matter. I want to go skiing, right? That's what we see. That's what the data shows. A Republican taking over for a Democrat, same party keeping in office, a Democrat taking over for a Republican. People sit on the sidelines and their hair's on fire and then they say, I want to go ski. So I expect at the end of November, we're going to see an increase because historically we see an 8% increase in bookings. Right now, we're down 1%. You see some fluctuation a little bit down in the beginning and doing much better in February and March, and certainly April because of where Easter falls and the trends that has. But overall, 1%, we're fine. The industry as a whole down 12%, right? So when we look at all the ski resorts across the West, down 12%, we're down 1%. We should take that and we should go to the bank and we should say, yeah, we're happy with that, right? Average daily rate. This is the rate that people pay for their rooms. It's an indicator of lodging sales tax, right? Which is really the only indicator. If you're not in the hotel business, you don't much care that our average daily rate for the winter is $804. Yeah, I know, $804. It tends to drop over time, right? Because you get a little closer. You know, the people booking earlier tend to be booking the bigger units, tend to be coming with families, tend to have more, they're more committed. They're gonna pay a little bit more. They're booking the holiday seasons and the spring breaks and the President's Week. Average rate drops, but last winter, our average rate was $744. So then for that's November 1st to April 30th. So that takes into account before the mountains open, after the mountain closes, takes into account Christmas week. You see the big fluctuations. Look at December, $912 for December, driven by December 26th to 31st. Big time driven by December 30th. You're not paying that December 1st. You're not paying that December 15th. So let's look at the airport. Any questions on the lodging stuff? Okay. We'll look at the airport. Our current route map at Eagle County Regional Airport. You can get all the information at the airport at flyege.com. Used to be flyvail.com. If you go to flyvail.com, it'll redirect you to flyege.com. Really hard to read here. Blue is year round, then winter seasonal, and the dash is summer seasonal. That doesn't much matter for the purposes here. The big takeaway here is we've added some service. We've added new flights on Alaska Airlines and Frontier. We'll look at Frontier next. The first two low-cost carriers that we've had at Eagle County Regional Airport since the airport opened in the 90s. So we've been working really hard to bring low-cost carriers to Eagle County, like years of meeting. We danced with Alaska for 6.5 years, no joke. We had them out here to visit. We visit them. We see them at conferences. We talk with them. We negotiate with them. They send us a contract. We don't like it. We send them a counter proposal. They don't like it. Hey, we have Alaska now. New service from Seattle, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. New service from San Diego, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. Those flights will have 76 seats on each of them. We're really excited to have that. It fills a really nice gap in the Pacific Northwest, right? That was a big glaring gap on our map prior to that addition of Seattle. Frontier Airlines, this one just came on board as well. You may have seen service to Denver, Dallas, and San Francisco. So we have United or American service to those markets already. We've seen Frontier come in. We've seen a huge, from my perspective, benefit on pricing. Pricing has dropped. I don't think I have it on here, so we'll do a quick quiz. Who wants to guess what Eagle County Regional Airport, prior to Frontier coming in, where did we rank of all the domestic airports in terms of fare? Highest. We were the highest fared domestic commercial service. Yeah, you knew that. So where are we within 2 weeks of Frontier coming in? Where did we rank? 19th. 19th. We dropped from the most expensive to the 19th most expensive in 2 weeks. It's amazing what market competition and a low-cost carrier will do for fares. So shop EGE, right? Check it out. See, it's a great experience. Yes, of course. And we'll get this sent to you guys as well. Okay, you're welcome. So what's happening at the airport? What are we seeing in terms of trends? And this goes back way in time. This goes back all the way to the year 2000. And you see some growth up until the Great Recession in 2008. Saw a big dip in 2008. 2009, we did the runway and it was closed for most of the summer. That's why you saw the dip in 2009. And then you saw a little stabilization and now you see tremendous growth. at Eagle County Regional Airport. We had new flights this past summer to Chicago and Houston, the new flights you saw for the winter. But you look at 2024, this is year to date. This is the most successful year in the history of the airport. Mostly, was it something I said? Most successful year in the history of the airport
You were easy on me.
with data just through September, right? That's before we get to the fourth quarter. A great momentum and growth in terms of employments. As it notes there, record employment reached before we even get to Q4. That's pretty awesome. I think it's pretty awesome. It might be of interest to you guys because the places where people come from the most tend to mirror our second home community, right? So this is passengers per day, first quarter of last year. Someone entered the waiting room. Am I going to break it? Let's see if I can break it. Uh-oh, I need now.
Yeah, there for you if you want to get it.
Yeah, I can't figure out where my cursor is. iPhone's gonna have to wait. For this, 265 passengers per day from the New York area. Right? The second, South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Palm Beach, 167 passengers a day coming into the Eagle County Regional Airport for first quarter of 2024. Chicago, Dallas, Atlanta, Southern California, Houston, DC, the Bay Area. Again, we'll share this out with you guys, but this tends to mirror, tends to reflect availability and access for second homes, right? It's certainly.
Surprised that Texas is not higher.
They cut some of the flights for the Houston, I know, because my clients were like.
Yeah, we lost the Austin place. Austin 2 years ago added 28 markets. And then this year they cut 36 markets. So Austin, they flooded Austin with new service. And then they cut all that, essentially all that new service plus more service. So I don't know what was going on in Austin, but this is what we see. So we see Dallas, Fort Worth, 108 passengers, Houston, 73 passengers, on down the line. So interesting, right?
Can you monitor or get any statistics on private things coming in?
Yeah.
Yes, they have international flights, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so we can. I wasn't sure. I didn't think I had a slide on that, but we have airport activity. So we have activity at the concessions. We have activity at the rental cars. We have activity at the Vail Valley Jet Center, Signature Aviation. So we do have that activity. I just didn't include it here, but they're doing well.
Chris,
So never mind.
are there any discussions with any carriers? Or is it too much of a secondary market for that west coast of Florida, like that Naples?
We're not Naples specifically.
Well, does it mean like Fort Myers, Naples, Tampa, like that?
Yes.
It
Yes.
just seems like there's.
So central Florida. So some of the markets on our radar screen that we're actively working with airlines, Charlotte, Minneapolis, Central Florida. Central Florida, Tampa, Orlando is a big want from our perspective. We are pitching Central Florida.
Well, a quick fact to add that you can take to your powers that be, and you may already know this fact, is Polk County, Florida is the largest county in the entire United States with influx of people in between Tampa and Orlando.
Yeah.
And it's not just lower income people, it's,
Right.
so. I mean,
Yeah, no, we're pushing those markets. Charlotte,
good to hear.
Minneapolis, and Central Florida, in no particular order, actually. Central Florida is probably the top one. Probably Charlotte being next, and additional year-round service. The frontier flights are, if they perform over the winter, their intent is to fly them over the summer as well. That would be amazing. So their intent and their hope is to fly those on a year-round basis.
Good to hear.
If the demand shows. The one thing I didn't mention, and then we'll get you here. The one thing I didn't mention for those Alaska flights and frontier flights, we're doing the locals flight rebate program. If you're not familiar with that, you can go to our website. We have a vanity URL, flyeaglecounty.com. You upload your proof of residency and your flight receipt, and we write you a check for $100.
Is that a one-time thing?
It's a one-time thing for the winter. Yeah, we had it for the summer for the new flights to Chicago and Houston. But it's for the, bless you, it's for the new service.
So my question was, where are the flights coming from? What is Aspen doing in comparison to what we're doing?
Yeah, Aspen is interesting. Aspen's airport does not accommodate the larger jets. They're all on regional jets. So about Chicago is the furthest that people can fly into. They have a huge increase, a huge footprint from Southern California. They don't have service from New York, Miami, some of those larger ranges because the airplanes can't make it. So we see a little bit of a inflow to the Roaring Fork Valley for those flights that Aspen doesn't have service on. But Aspen's continued to grow as well, and they just had a ballot initiative earlier this month to go through that. That's a whole separate interesting little case study.
Are you gonna speak to the international terminal?
I'm glad you asked. Yeah, in our limited time, as I run up to 1 minute left, international terminal. So we will have an international terminal at EGE. It's coming. It's just a question of when. It's a little bit of a fundraising gap. It's going to cost around $21 million. It's the old terminal that is owned by Signature Aviation that's been sitting empty for 20 or so years. It's a time capsule. If you ever get a chance to go in there, it is a time capsule. It's fascinating, but it's the facility design is complete. The county is going to RFP this month or early next month for construction and design, and exploring options on how to fill that funding gap from the airport and the county with private partners. So, you know, when I say we will have an international terminal, we have some congressionally designated spending. We will have an international terminal. I don't know that it starts December of 2025. I'd be pretty surprised if it didn't start December of 2026. Like the service, right? The construction process should be relatively quick because the bones are there, right? But it's
target market,
Mexico.
Mostly Mexico City.
Mexico City, Monterrey, Guadalajara. Yeah, Mexico. Canada can clear customs on the Canadian side. So we might get a flight from Toronto or something, but that's not the attraction. The attraction is Mexico, South America.
So with that said, I read in the paper that, you know, totally be paid for by service fees.
Yes.
Tax or service fees on airline tickets. So will that be both on domestic and international?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know
Put
if
a
it,
big pause for me because I fly out of Eagle quite a bit.
yeah, I don't know that I don't know how that the fees would work. My guess would be it would be only on the international. The way the airlines fees work, like the landing fees at EGE and the gate fees at EGE won't be any different. They're legally not allowed to be any different for different carriers. EGE is allowed to any airport, Denver, when you see new service coming into Denver or Eagle or any other city, they're allowed to waive landing fees for a set period of time for any new market or any new airline. So that's common as an incentive. But I don't believe they can charge different airlines different fees. So it would be maybe an airline-based fee. I don't know the details. So that's what's happening at the airport. That's what's happening in the community. I'm 2 minutes late. I apologize. On to the next one. Thank you, guys. My contact info, I think most people know how to find me, or they seem to find me without too much trouble. But feel free to reach out. Happy to send you full decks or anything else. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, so hi, my name is Julie, Julie Block. I am, as Mel said, relatively brand new to the Valley. I just moved here in October. I spent the last few years in Crested Butte, so trading one mountain community for another and very excited to be here. I've skied the Vail Valley plenty of times before. So really, really fun this area and really excited to be back here living in this community. So before I dive in, just want to call attention to the main thing going on right now for the Vail Valley Foundation, which is Birds of Prey. As a lot of you might know, we are for the very first time this year doing 2 weekends, a men's weekend and a women's weekend. And so we are basically doubling the size of the event, doubling the festivities, doubling, if not more than doubling, the entertainment around it. And that includes bringing some of the entertainment to Vail for the first time this year. So I'm really excited to dive into some of that. But first I'll just share a little bit about myself since I don't think I know anyone in this room yet. So like I said, my name is Julie Block. I am the PR and Communications Senior Manager for the Vail Valley Foundation. A lot of you might know Tom Boyd. He's my predecessor. He just got elected as Eagle County Commissioner. And so he is going to be moving on to start taking on those duties. And as a result, I'm stepping in for him. So really excited to be working with such a great organization that provides so many opportunities for entertainment and programming all around the valley to people who live here full time, who have second homes here, and then also those who are visiting. Cool. So really quickly, I just want to start with who we are. The Vail Valley Foundation covers a lot of different areas of our community. And so sometimes it's difficult to distinguish what exactly we do. So we've been a part, the Vail Valley Foundation has been a part of this community since 1981. Our mission is to provide leadership in arts, athletics, education, and addressing community needs to enhance our valley as a place to live, work, and visit. So those are really our 4 buckets that we dive into: arts, athletics, education, and then community needs, because those are, in our opinion, the 4 places where we can really bring vitality to the community and make people want to visit here, make them want to live here, and really make it an exciting place to be year round, not just during the peak seasons. And that leads into our vision, which is an extraordinary mountain community with quality of life for all. So those are our 4 areas of focus. And what we do. So these are kind of all of our core programs and venues. So community supports, which right now we are currently working with the town of Avon to hopefully really soon build a early childhood education and development center. I know Chris was talking earlier about how we really need that early childhood resources around here. And so that's one area we're working on for community supports at the moment. The Gerald R. Ford Amphitheater in Vail, the GoPro Mountain Games, Hot Summer Nights, Showdown Town, and Villar Performing Arts Center, all a lot of entertainment focused areas. And then also, of course, Birds of Prey coming up here soon, the Vail Dance Festival, and then Youth Power 365, which is our education centered programming. So we cover, like I said, a lot of different areas in our community. The goal is to make this valley a sustainable place for people to live and to work in all of those hospitality industries that Chris was just talking about a moment ago, and also a desirable place for people to want to move to, both for their full-time and for their second homes. So really quickly, I just want to talk a bit, bless you, about our early child care education and development center. So it's going to be a 13,450 square foot facility. It's going to provide about 165 childcare spots for children ages 0 to 5. And as I'm sure a lot of you know, we do live in a childcare desert here in our community. So this is a really big need, a big hole that we're trying to fill. It is going to be a combination of open market availability and a unique employer sponsored model. So employers will be able to fund some of the tuition, if you will, for their employees' children to be able to go. It's going to be in Avon, right across from the Piedmont, kind of by that Walmart.
So
South next to,
Yeah.
west.
West of.
West, I don't have the exact address on
It's
here.
south of Piedmont, right at the roundabout. The Kessler is on the even further south, so it's just a really narrow piece of land. It's right along the railroad track.
North of the tracks then.
Yeah, north of the tracks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Still new to the valley, learning all the geography, but yes, that sounds right. We are in a pre-construction agreement right now with R.A. Nelson, local construction company. And then we currently have an RFP out right now for an operator of the facility. So it's kind of an all hands on deck approach. Town of Avon is going to be donating the land for us to lease. And then through all of these community partnerships, we're going to make this happen.
What is the completion time for this? Do you know?
We are expecting to have it fully operational by fall of 2026. Is the goal. So less than 2 years from now. Couldn't come sooner. Yeah, or I think that's it on this for now. We will be sending out this deck to everyone. We just ask that you please don't share this slide with the public. It is just a rendering. So are there any other questions on childcare before I jump to the next thing? Great. So this is also another thing that we're keeping hush hush for the next few days. But then we will be sharing it out with the public. The Vail Performing Arts Center is getting a new logo. So you are seeing it here. We're launching it on November 20th. So just 2 days from now. It coincides with the launch of a new 3-year strategic plan for the Vail. So it has 4 pillars, taking programming to the next level. So really enhancing the quality of the artists that we're attracting to the Vail, and showcasing the breadth of programming that we're able to offer, everything from classical music to dance performances, comedy shows, documentary films, kind of all across the board. Inspiring the community. So we want to really get our young people involved in the arts and inspire them through our STARS programming, which is a program that allows schools in the community to bring their kids and see our shows for free. So it's a really great community program that we do. Championing the performing arts through improved facilities, enhanced customer service, unique donor experiences. So currently in fundraising stages to try to make some of that happen. And then advancing organizational sustainability. So we're always keeping sustainability top of mind. And we want to try to do all of those 3 things I just said in a way that is good for the environment. So the new logo is going to be implemented all across the Vail and the VBS materials throughout the coming weeks and months. Rebranding does take some time, so you might see the old logo for a while, but we're hoping to get this new one across everything pretty soon. But that, like I said, is launching on Wednesday. Okay, so now Birds of Prey, the main event of the day. Some key dates to know here. Friday, December 6th is when the men's racing kicks off. So there's 3 days of men's racing. We've got the downhill, Super G, and giant slalom. And then the following weekend are the women's races. So downhill on December 14th and then Super G on the 15th. There's also going to be a ton of really fun events, ski team signings being one of them. So grab, whatever ski gear you got and feel free to bring it on by. Those events are free. And we're really excited to be making this into a 2-week festival because it really expands our possibilities for bringing in tourism and people just come see our amazing ski town. Especially with when you add names like Michaela Schifrin to the lineup, it really starts to generate excitement. And so we're excited to kick it off here shortly.
Maybe Lindsay Collins, huh?
There are rumors that she might be running the course. So we will see. She's not going to be racing at Beaver Creek. We do know that, but yeah, she might be running. So
She won the last time. The only time the girls raced, she won.
Yeah. She will be here for sure.
She wasn't 40. No, I know that. I know.
Yeah, she got some knee issues she's working through, but we know that she will be here. And there's a chance that she'll be forerunning the course. So one way or another, might be catching a glimpse of Lindsay, which we're excited about. So like I was saying, a lot of really awesome free entertainment. We are going to continue to have our grandstands free to spectators, thanks to a really generous donation from John and Karen Arnold. So Red Tail Stadium has been renamed the John and Karen Arnold Red Tail Stadium. So you'll see here as the location venue for some of our events. So we've got a ton of free concerts in Beaver Creek Village. And then we also have a new event this year, Meet the Cats and Dogs of Beaver Creek. So that includes Beaver Creek's avalanche dogs, as well as snow cats that are used to build the Birds of Prey course. We'll be hanging out by the bus stop at John and Karen Arnold Red Tail Stadium on both weekends, men's and women's weekend. So it's a really fun, family-friendly activity that we're excited to introduce in addition to all of our awesome festivities that we have throughout the 10-day festival. And then there's also paid experiences, which includes a bunch of shows at the Vail Performing Arts Center, some film premieres, 2 Beers of Prey events. So that's always a really big hit for people during the men's week. So we're going to have 2 of them this year, an additional one during women's weekend. And it will be 2 separate beer tastings. So if you're a beer fan, get tickets to both. And then some really great shows at the Vail Performing Arts Center, Elephant Revival, Big Head Todd and the Monsters, which is already sold out. And then, like I was saying earlier, we are bringing festivities to Vail for the first time this year. So Tiesto is going to be performing at Ford Park parking lot. So that will be on Friday, right before Women's Weekend starts, really kick off the second week of extravaganzas there. And if you don't know, Tiesto is a big world-class DJ. So really like pump up vibes to get the crowd excited. And then if people want to have the best views of the race on race day, they can also purchase VIP tickets. So that includes all really great food and drinks and a brand new bird's eye deck that has really awesome views of the race. So that's an extra perk if you really want to see the best views. And then finally, moving on from Birds of Prey, some things we have coming up for 2025. Operate the AMP is going to be April 4th to 5th. That was just announced on Friday. Tickets go on sale this Friday. We have, I'm gonna butcher the name of this, Léon Patrice, it's a French pop disco band that's going to be headlining along with Jungle and Goth Babe. Some other really great artists that we are not allowed to announce yet, but we'll be announcing soon, are going to be performing. And then we are about to start announcing our summer season at the Gerald R. Ford Amphitheater. So these are some of our first names we're going to be announcing: Leon Bridges, OAR, and Michael Franti being announced this week. And then more coming soon. So summer stuff is just around the corner, even though we are knee deep in winter season, starting to plan for summer and make those announcements, and really looking forward to a great year in the Vail Valley. I think that's all I got. Does anyone have any questions for me?
That was a lot.
You know, you're really fast, yeah.
So the renaming of the Red Tail area to the Arnold's name, are they a big donor or?
Yeah, so they're supporting our Empower Possibility campaign, which is our current capital campaign. And specifically their donation went to supporting the longevity of our ski racing and our ski racing legacy. And so that includes keeping the grandstands free to allow everyone to be able to experience the race at no cost, which is something that's really unique to our area. Most World Cup ski races are all ticketed events. So their donation allows us to keep those grandstands free and keep the festivities around for many years to come.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I didn't do a PowerPoint presentation because I think the world is too full of PowerPoint presentations. So I'm just gonna talk, and as I do that, please stop me if you have any questions. We are really excited to have Vail Mountain open for this season with 130 acres, and I think we're gonna start expanding that pretty quickly. So hopefully here in the next couple hours, I'll get a text that will be top to bottom from Vail Village up to Mid-Vail and back down. So no more downloading on the gondola, and then we're gonna kind of start connecting Lions Head and Vail Village, and then out of Lions Head, Eagles Nest into Lions Head. And so we're kind of making progress pretty quickly. The cold temps are really awesome. I think what I'll do is a little bit of like history about the new, like still somewhat of a new opening scenario. I think for those that have been in the Valley for a while, we used to open the resort only from Lions Head. It was like born free. That's it, and it was cherry laps as best we could get. The problem with that is that it's really warm because it's really low. And so what the company did in 2019 was put in North America's largest snowmaking expansion project at the Mid-Vail pod, so Mid-Vail and above. And they are getting better and better at working the system every year. Which is why we're able to open with 130 acres pretty consistently. We set a date and we're pretty good with it. Because of that, we can move to the rest of the mountain. So typically we wouldn't be able to get started on that Mid-Vail pod until we had a chair 8 done and open, and it takes a lot of snow to get that because of the temps are just a lot warmer. So it just takes a lot more meltage happens. So now it's a lot quicker to connect all the dots. And so it's just like really good year-over-year benefits of that expansion project up there. And then hopefully, our plan is, as long as Mother Nature cooperates a little bit, is to have a really good village to village, top to bottom ski experience at Vail Mountain by Thanksgiving, which is our goal this year, and we're on target to hit that. Beaver Creek is following a pretty traditional opening day, which is the day before Thanksgiving. We'll see what the storm does. I don't know if it was last year, but the year before we opened a couple days early. I've heard no whispers about that yet, but it's, we're still a week and change away, so who knows. What's great about the new technology with snowmaking that we're using is we don't need natural snowfall. We just need really cold temperatures. In fact, what we like better is cold dry. And so we're seeing more early season for a lot of folks that of course, we're all concerned about climate change. What we're seeing is less early season snowfall, necessarily like year over year. But we are seeing pretty consistent cold, dry temperatures, which really helps us fire up the snow guns and get things moving pretty good. So we're really happy about that. I think what I'll do is kind of walk through each resort, what's new for the season, and what is to be excited about, kind of where we're investing from an experience standpoint, and kind of where the brands are going. So for Vail, we announced an opening day, pretty much like this. What I'm really excited about, this whole season full of music, live music. What we noticed competitors doing with competitor destinations is that they tie live music to a pre-existing event. So if you look at Aspen, they have X Games and there's a music lineup, right? It just rounds out their X Games event to have this cultural moment. What we're doing here kind of started a little bit underground, and we're testing and learning over the past couple of years. Was bringing back music, but instead of having like just 1 week of music or having a sporting event and attaching music to it, was like, how do we make music synonymous with, or Vail synonymous with music? So what I like to say is Vail is the world's premier mountain destination, and now Vail is the world's premier alpine music venue. No one is doing what Vail as a destination is doing. So this year we have 3 kind of tentpole concert moments where Tiesto is coming December 13th. And then after Tiesto, we're in February, Valentine's Day weekend, John Summit, who is one of the biggest artists now. He's sold out 3 days of Madison Square Garden overnight. He'll be coming for February. And then Operate the Amp is on its 3rd year, returning with 2 days of incredible music. So those are our 3 tentpole events. And then what we're doing is what we call on mountain pop-up music. So we don't want just, the like afternoon, evening music experience in the village. We want a live music experience up on the mountain as well. So last year we tested John Summit, who is an avid skier and loves to come to the destination. He did a free live pop-up concert on the mountain. And it was awesome. It was snowing. It was like 300-400 people who just like, we didn't let people know about it until the day before, and they just like came. And so we're going to do more of this like kind of like pop up, like you kind of have to be in the know, you have to be there to experience it, which we think is a really nice like way for the destination to express itself, where it's about being here, and like you're going to have an experience. You might not know what it is, but that experience will be there for you. And once you find it, it's going to be incredible. So we've announced one of our pop-up music series, Ellie and Fur. And what we're trying to do is push the envelope on what music means. So it's a lot of like more modern house, EDM, dance, like stuff that's like really energetic and vibrant. That attracts, not just a youthful crowd, but also a European crowd, a Mexico City crowd, very international feeling. So Ellie and Fur is already announced, but the only way to learn about the other pop-up concerts are going to be to follow social media. What we're finding is that we're getting a lot more engagement on the mountain with millennial Gen Z audiences, which is really exciting to see. So like as what you don't want to see is as your skier population ages, no one comes back in to fill that, age as people age out of the sport. So we're getting a lot of like real kind of traction with this younger audience. And so we're trying to meet them where they are. And so throughout the season, we'll continue to announce on social these pop-up music concerts on the mountain. What we also did is we worked with Town of Vail and a lot of the lodging partners, restaurants, bars, and this is going to be something that hopefully guests will experience throughout the entire village. So if you think of not just these tentpole moments at the AMP or Fort Park on the mountain, but really everything in between. So when you came off the mountain on opening day, you heard like 2 competing DJs, which was really awesome. Like, where am I going to go? It's like really vibrant, kind of like off mountain kind of après experience. And so Los Amigos had their DJ up, and then Express Lift. We're going to do 16 DJ performances at Express Lift throughout the season, right at the bottom of Gondola 1. And then we've confirmed that, of course, Shakedown is going to have their live music, and Chasing Rabbits we're partnering with Chasing Rabbits and AEG to announce some of their music that they're going to have. And then Los Amigos is going to do DJs once a week. Phil Long will be at Chop House. Cucina and Tavern have confirmed that they're going to do live music at least once a week. Gambit Bar at the Sun and Alp is going to, so like everywhere a guest turns, almost 7 days a week, there's going to be some live music experience for them. And so like we're hoping that this is like a thing, right? So when you think bluegrass, you think Telluride. We want people to think, just music at Vail. And not tied to a specific just like moment in time, but really like throughout the entire season. It's like high energy experience that, when guests come off like they're high from the back bowls, like it doesn't end there. They're in the village doing the same thing. So that's like, I think that's like the big thing for this season at Vail. We're also, we opened Mid-Vail with a little bit of an upgrade to the experience. So we're calling it Powerline Pub, but if you've been up there yet, if you haven't been up there yet, right on the inside, we expanded the bar. It's like it got a new backdrop, stone wall with some like lighting on the bar. It's just like we put in about 90 high tops. So it feels a little bit more lively and hopefully less competition for seats because we've added more. But it's like, a mix of high tops and low tops. So it feels a lot more like a kind of bar experience up there when you first walk in. And then, of course, the standard Mid-Vail, quick service experience in the back. We're also adding on the lower level a like more choice and more options. So we call it a salad bar, but it's going to have some hot food options as well. So it'll be hot and cold, pay by weight. So guests can come in and kind of select what they want, whether they want like, a couple meatballs or whatever, like, and they can make their own plate, have more options, and then hopefully get out of the queue pretty quickly because it'll be way, pay, and go. So it's not, what we're trying to do in a lot of our areas is try to eliminate waits. What's the worst thing when you're skiing is waiting. So along the same lines, year 2 of mobile pass. So if you have an Epic Pass, it's on your phone. We have expanded that to lip tickets. And buddy tickets, so everything really can be done on your phone. So when you get here, what we noticed is that a guest will drive or come from their hotel, they'll be like, oh crap, I don't have what I need to get on the mountain, and then they'll have to go wait in a line. And that's not how we want you to start your day. So you can buy everything on your phone, you can load your pass on your phone and you can skip that line. And so really what we're trying to do is elevate the service at our lift ticket windows. So only those guests that need like the most attention and the most care because they're having some issue are the ones in the line. And if you just need to go print your pass, you don't have to do that anymore. Get a lift ticket, you don't have to do it anymore. It's all on your phone. And then we brought back some favorites. So the pins are back. So if you ski at Vail Mountain 25, 50, 75, or 100 days, you'll get a commemorative pin. We have Vail Mail back at the top of chair 4 at the Legacy Hut. So we've paid for postage, read a little postcard to someone, stick it in the mailbox. There are new postcards every year. So they're different than the postcards that were last year. So they're kind of hoping, some people are kind of like treating them like collector's items these days, mail themselves a postcard from a little over 11,000 feet. And then what we're doing is on the food front is trying to continue to expand the food offerings, do more scratch cooking and bring some of that back across the mountain. Are there any questions with Vail?
You bringing back any kid-sized menus?
Kid-size menus, that's a great question.
It's $28 for a kid's chicken nuggets, that's a plate about this big with 8 1.
Yeah, I have not seen a kid's menu, but that's a great question, and I will certainly provide the feedback. And if we do have one, I will follow up with this group and let you know what it is. What I didn't mention that I should have though is that over the summer for kids ski school, they did put in 3 new adventure zones.
Yeah.
So that's out and about now. So there are 13 total kids adventure zones where, you know, kids can kind of get off the main slope and into these like fun little learning areas. And they've done a lot of work to like make them fun and gamify them a little bit. So the kids can like search for the little animals in the woods and that kind of stuff. And really what it's designed to do, it actually has an intention behind it, is that, you know, I've got a 4-year-old, he's on skis and he does this. And so if I tell him like, look for the squirrel, like he's doing this. And so his body will do the skiing for him when he's looking up, as opposed to staring down at his feet and not really turning or thinking about where he wants to go next. So that's new, but I will find out about the kids' meals. It's a good question.
Can I ask you a question? Are you gonna bring back a coffee bar at Mid-Vail?
Yes, they brought at the bar, it will be open when Mid-Vail opens at 9 a.m. and there is coffee service up there. And I believe the plan is to also bring in pastries. So when you walk in, there will be some coffee pastry service at Mid-Vail, and then there is breakfast service up at Buffalo's. So they're gonna have, last year they had egg and cheese, sausage, egg and cheese on English muffins. I believe they're bagels this year. But there's 2 spots for breakfast on the mountain.
They're actually really good.
They are really
And
good.
a great deal, especially if you had to plates.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
Do you know where the 3 new kids areas are located by any
I
chance?
don't off the top of my head, but I believe they're around the Chair 2 Eagles Nest Ridge pod. But we will have a map up with all 3 new trails on there online. Great, yeah, good question. Okay, I will switch gears to Beaver Creek. Beaver Creek will open, and then like right away, the big news for the resort is hosting the women's races this year. So, I mean, women's sports is having a moment, and for Beaver Creek Resort to be able to participate in that with a second weekend of Birds of Prey to host women's events is pretty incredible. So we'll open Thanksgiving, then pretty much right into men's Birds of Prey, and then into women's Birds of Prey the following weekend, and that'll kind of get us to mid-December, which is wild. But that's really exciting because, you know, not only is Michaela Schifrin having, you know, her moment, getting close to 100, but Lindsey Vonn just announced that she is returning to sport on the US ski team. And so my understanding is both will be there at the event. And it kind of times nicely with the resort's new kind of creative platform. So when we think about, and it's for those that have been in the valleys, you're going to laugh because it's like nothing new. But we're going back to not exactly roughing it. It's like we tried to change it and then we realized, why did we change it? So we're going back to what it should have always been, probably. But not exactly roughing it is back. And so that will weave its way throughout the experience. And one of the ways that, we're really trying to differentiate the resort, and we always, know the three cabins, Alley, Zach's, Beano's, are incredible experiences. With the candy cabin, the cookie cabin, there's kind of an ice cream parlor. I like to think of it as like there's, your higher end adult dining experiences, but also like really cool, fun kids culinary experiences as well. And so we're leaning into that this year, and we're doing a new series called the Alpine Table. We tested it last year, where we are taking one weekend at each of our cabins, and we're doing a collaboration with a Michelin restaurant, a Michelin either guided or starred restaurant from Denver. So all that was announced and is online, and I believe will be available for reservation, limited reservations in December. And so Alley, Zach's, and Beano's will each be partnering with another restaurant that's kind of also having their moment. So for example, Tavernetta is doing a collaboration. They're opening their restaurant at the Four Seasons Vail. They're doing a collaboration up at Alley's cabin for a weekend. Well, they'll do a custom menu. They'll have both chefs there, and should be like a really neat kind of culinary series that we're going to offer. And so long as that goes well this year, we'll continue to expand and elevate that, because what we realize is that the guest that comes to Beaver Creek has very high expectations for culinary and dining. And that, is something, a promise that we want to make good on and continue to expand those offerings each year. One of the other things with not exactly roughing it that we have learned, and that I'm very excited about. So I run public relations and, social media and all that for the resort. And, I think what we've done a little bit, and this is industry-wide, this is not just Beaver Creek, is we've kind of dumbed down the luxury experience. Like we've assumed it's all been about kids and cookie time. When at the end of the day, what we find our guests really want are like a rich offering of experiences. And so we've got the world's best kids ski school, and snowboard school. And by the way, when you put your kids there, you can go rip some of the best hidden steeps and trees that Colorado has to offer, whether that's Stone Creek, Chutes, or Grouse Mountain. So we're starting to tell more stories and introduce guests to not just like Blue Groomers in the signature parks collection or easy terrain for learning. And there's nothing wrong with McCoy Parks, don't get me wrong, it's incredible. But it's also making sure that our guests know that there's something else for you too. And they're also adrenaline junkies, right? Luxury doesn't mean easy. We've figured out the hard part for you, but you can still go have an incredibly challenging ski experience.
Can I add, you have
Yeah.
an amazing adaptive ski program for this?
Yeah. Adaptive is something that we are excited about, not only Beaver Creek, but at Vail, I know we just invested in more adaptive gear.
Brendan Golden.
Yeah, so we're really excited about that this year.
Just ask.
Yeah, thank you.
Are you hired up? Are the resorts hired up?
Yeah.
I mean, how's employment?
Yeah, really good. So we were great last year, and then this year we're pacing on or ahead of where we expect to be for hiring. And so both resorts are feeling good about the staff we have. We introduced last year that works really well. So I don't have anecdotes from Beaver Creek as much as I do Vail, but we had some of the best scores, like guest feedback on our lift operators that like we have ever seen. And part of this is what we've done is we've introduced like, I don't want to say like a test, but like a couple of like a questionnaire before someone applies. And so not only are we're kind of like, we're able to see the propensity for guest service before we actually even get to the interview process or hiring process. And the test is turning out to like be really good. Like the candidates we're getting and the people we're hiring are better and more engaged than we have ever seen, which is awesome.
Coming from? Mostly.
It's a mix.
Still Argentina, are they?
China.
Still doing that
Yeah.
kind of recruiting?
Yeah, we're still doing international recruiting, and we still definitely have like our robust J1 international program. I would say more so over at Vail than Beaver Creek. And what's cool about that is we do have a large clientele from Mexico, and they respond really well when someone can speak to them in their language, and so we're really excited about the J1 audience. But for our lift operators, for example, like we're getting them from all over the place. We're just able to see better who in the mix we want to like really go after and hire. And I don't know, with the returning class this year, so we have a lot of returners, which is also great. It's one of the, from what I understand, at least at Vail and Beaver Creek, one of the highest return rates that we've seen in a very, very, very long time. So not only are we getting a better caliber of employee that's coming, we're getting fully staffed, and then they're coming back, which is really exciting. So we don't have to do the same level of retraining or training, we're just kind of like more refreshing. And then it's like the crew that was out at Chair 4 over the weekend. I mean, they knew exactly what to do with a smile on their face, and that makes all the difference, which we're really excited about. Yeah, good.
So we're so year round.
Mhm.
What was your feedback on Summer Vail? As an on mountain?
Yeah, so summer continues to evolve. What we're learning, especially up at Adventure Ridge is like it's not something like it's something that a guest does like once and then they're like, okay, I've done it. So we continue to look at summer offerings and see what our guests are engaging with the most. And that's the kind of stuff that we're bringing back. I think what we're looking at now is more of the, like what we got really great feedback about is we use summer as kind of our test kitchen, so to speak, where we're innovating the summer menu to really iron out what our guest likes, get the guest feedback about food, and then bring some of that to the winter experience. So for example, we did over the summer a pork belly lettuce and tomato sandwich, like a little take on a BLT. And like they just flew off, like people would order them nonstop. We would have people come back just to get the sandwich. So we're going to put that into our winter menu. So that's kind of what we're trying to test with summer is like, how do we offer things in the summer that we can learn from and adapt and then offer in the winter as like kind of a little bit of a test, which is exciting.
Biking is growing so much. That's kind of more my direction.
Yeah, totally. We added a new bike trail.
Yeah, you've got Park City who's just crushing that realm, and I think it's important for Vail, for sure.
Yeah, so we added, we finished, well, if you remember, I think Mamba just kind of like ended. We finished that this summer, so no one got on it, but for next year, that'll be new. Which is given.
What is it?
Mamba. It's the
Trail from top of Ghana.
Yeah, top of 19.
Trails.
I forget where it cut off, but it just kind of like ended kind of mid-mountain. And then the year before they expanded Coyote and Grand Traverse, which is cool because now Grand Traverse connects to that other trail that's not technically Vail Mountain, but gets
Down the Golden.
down, which is really great.
But there was a lot of good feedback about it this year, which is
Yeah.
awesome. So it's good traction.
Yeah. I still think they're looking at how it would work, but I know that there's more plans, at least in the drawn up, whether or not, their actual plans, I think whether we do them is still, I think, up for conversation, but I know that we've looked at intermediate and beginner trails. Because no one's really doing that. Like what we're seeing is that all the trails are
More of the beginner.
Yeah.
You need to partner with Walmart. So.
Yeah, everyone's doing these like really hard, aggressive trails.
And it just scares the beginners to get to that level right off.
So I'm hesitant to talk about it that much because I think what people, what our loudest summer audience wants to see are more like really hardcore, like Whistler Blackcomb style, like parks and hard stuff. But what we've actually looked at as a gap in the marketplace is beginner intermediate.
That's it.
And so that's like, I'm hesitant to roll it out. Let's keep this between this group. I'm hesitant to like roll it out too soon because we have to like, if it happens, I don't know if it will, but if it does, I want to make sure we message it right because I don't want people to get upset that like, well, wait, there's nothing harder, come on, Vail, right? Yeah. Wildwood, we did the ice bar, it melted.
Set up properly.
You know, the thing is, it's like when it's cold, it's like a mountaintop, people aren't using it. So what we did instead is, and we got really good feedback, and actually, because I'm on social, I see a lot of people tagging us in. What was really small, but people really liked were the folding lawn chairs.
Yeah, they were great.
With the, like that, and so those are back at Wildwood, right? So we're trying to like have these like, and we're trying to make it different, you know, what we don't want is everything to look like Aspen.
Right.
And so Wildwood, a little bit more endemic, a little bit more focused on barbecue, right? It's like, and we have the beer there, it's like, where are these launchers that no one else is doing? And so we had some good response there, those are coming back. The snow bungalows at Eagle's Nest, still trying to figure out if there's a better way to operationalize it, but what we are doing with one of our pop-up concerts, and I can't tell you who the artist is yet, but we're putting Eagle's Nest rooftop will be used at least twice as a music venue. So something different.
Play up top and everybody be down below.
That,
They'll play up top and everybody be down below.
we're gonna welcome everyone up to the top.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, I think we're gonna have about 400. Yeah. Let me just walk through all of the little things, right? And so like, hopefully as you ski around, you'll see it. So if you go Golden Peak, the big one is Avanti, right? They're coming in and they're gonna have big windows, garage doors, fire pits activated with music. Then
When
it
is that supposed to come online?
spring is what I'm,
I heard January. They told us
I
January.
heard January too, but I'm gonna I'm hopefully spring. Then if you go up to the top at Tualatin, we turn that into a Bavarian beer garden. So music, German, authentic German beers, like not just like Stella, right? Like actual
So like,
beers.
again, another great place to put
Yeah.
stuff outside that's maybe German themed
Yeah,
or whatever.
we have some operational issues with, yeah, we have some operational issues with like the equipment we need to use because it's such a large area to like move snow. And then if you go then over to Midvale, Powerline Pub, so the new bar that we kind of updated that in there. So hopefully that's like phase one of some other stuff that will happen in Midvale. And then if you go to Wildwood, all the lawn chairs. And actually, we also put in the beer window down at Midvale 2 seasons ago. So those chairs, and then if you go over to Eagle's Nest, we're gonna do the rooftop music venue. And then we have the igloos out there that we're still trying to make work. If we can, we're on the fence about bringing the ice bar back to Eagle's Nest. The problem is that it just, if it's cold, no one uses it, and if it's hot, it melts. And so it's like, what's the point, right? So yeah, I think you're spot on with the feedback. I think we're trying to do it as it's incremental. It's not like big splash, but we're slowly getting there.
Sorry, I was out for a minute, but did you talk about Larkspur and that is gonna turn into a food court?
Avanti Food and Beverage, yeah.
Avanti Food and Beverage, is that what it's gonna be called?
Yes, so they're a restaurant company out of Denver. They have a Denver location, a Boulder
It's
location.
like a
It's a food hall, yeah, and they're gonna use local chefs and restaurateurs.
It's gonna be in like different stations where you can get different kinds of foods and.
Maybe it's like the Bluebird in Frisco.
Or first, yeah, so it's similar, it'll be similar, yeah. But they've done a really great job. I was visiting some friends down in Boulder, and the Avanti Food and Beverage Hall down there is slammed. Like it is like people are flocking to it.
Yeah.
So what I'll share that there's a document that causes a lot of these rumors called the Master Development Plan. And the MDP is a required document from the US Forest Service. So it's not a fixed frequency, but roughly every 8 to 10 years, every ski resort in the country that sits on US Forest Service land has to update their master development plan. The US Forest Service will accept, what the final step is that they will accept the master development plan. That does not mean that anything in there is approved. What it means is that the US Forest Service and the mountain have conceptually aligned on the vision for what is possible. So, for example, that gondola out of Golden Peak, the Forest Service and the company have said, like, this is something that is in the realm of possibility, but there's no approval for it, there's no funding for it, like, it's just, but it's like a long-range vision for future state of the resort. Also in the MDP, what you'll find is a gondola out of West Lions Head. And we did announce that with the town of Vail and East West Partners that we will be developing the West Lions Head area.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, so that gondola is in the plan, in the MDP, and the company now has put kind of an approval behind moving forward with that. So the one that you're talking about at Golden Peak is still just in the MDP as like a conceptual.
I'm just curious if you could speak to, how are the net promoter scores going with Vail and Beaver Creek individually over since, you know, the past 4 years coming out of the COVID era to now? Are they up? Are they down? Are we
We
trying to
are
raise
very
them
pleased.
with the two resorts?
Yeah, we are very pleased with question about are you fully staffed, and kind of what I was saying about how the staff we're getting are like really good and really engaged. That's having a huge impact on our net promoter scores.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting because it's like we're getting people who want to create a great experience for our guests, and our guests are noticing it. And it's, and you know, Beaver Creek continues to have, you know, Vail is a big resort. We have a lot of guests, right? And we're very happy with where our NPS is, and there's always room to improve and grow. And, you know, that's of course the goal. Beaver Creek continues to be one of the top performers in the company and industry. So Beaver Creek is absolutely crushing it.
What do you attribute that to?
I think a lot of things. I think it's
Must be the level of ski instruction.
totally. No, I think the staff there is very seasoned, and the staff is very passionate about what they do at Beaver Creek. I think the culinary experiences, meet and exceed guest expectations. I think it's the small little touches, the intimate village. You know, I think to a certain extent, people will go and say like, oh, I want to try Vail, right? And there's like options for them to get there, and you drive them from Frisco, stay for a day, drive back to Frisco. Like people go to Beaver Creek intentionally. And I think it's the guest that ends up there. We're able to like really hone in on what they want, and we're able to provide a high level of service. And that I think matters more than anything. I mean, you watch kids come out of that ski school and snowboard school, and they just had the best day, right? Their parents are thrilled because their kid is like over the, you know, who has a bad day with a cookie in your hand at 3 o'clock? I mean, no one.
Go ahead.
I would love to see Vail be more beginner friendly, and I would love to see the family ski school zones brought back on Swingsville. And I would like to see one implemented or put in at the bottom of Flapjack, because I think Chair 14 is an awesome area to teach beginners, and then you have the problem getting it down to download on Chair 6 at the end of the day.
We heard that feedback in particular from instructors, and last year we started, and I believe in like March, so towards the end of the season, and it's coming back this year, where any manager or above that skis by Flapjack needs to spend 5 minutes at the baffle to slow people down and create a presence. And so we're gonna bring more of that back. And
I'm just back to something you talked about earlier, with the music and in the winter. Is that gonna be continuing like into the summer, like year round? Okay.
yeah, so what kind of gave us a little bit of extra oomph this year was over the summer, we had a pop-up concert with Cannons at Eagle's Nest that was pretty well attended, and then Lions Head Live out of Lions Head was there, and then of course all the programming that happens at the AMP. And so we're looking at how we continue that throughout the summer. And what's really great is that and part of why this is happening is that there used to be a rule with Red Rocks that AEG is the event kind of producer at Red Rocks, and they had this rule that you couldn't book one of their artists within 100 miles of Red Rock. Well, Vail is like 97 miles away. And so in partnership with the Dillon Amphitheater, the Ford Amphitheater, Vail, and our properties in Breckenridge and Keystone said, can we get rid of this like silly 100-mile rule? And they're like, okay. So they got rid of it, which is awesome. Because now we can get like top-notch performances coming from Red Rocks to the AMP here in Vail. And because we've built this relationship with AEG, they're the ones who have kind of the keys for us, where when we say, hey, can we have, you know, Eli and Fur, Ellie and Fur, and John Summit up at the mountain or Cannons, they're like, yeah, no problem. We're doing it's gonna be, oh my gosh, I forget who the DJ is, but we are filming, we did this over the summer and it worked. And so we're gonna do it in the winter. Last summer we had, and I'm totally blanking on the band, we filmed them play at Midvale. It wasn't a concert, but what we find is that people watch music online. Like the real hardcore fans. Like I've never sat and watched a concert like on my computer, but people do that, believe it or not. And so we're gonna have a pretty big DJ up and coming play at the Game Creek Chalet. And we're gonna film that like drone and the whole thing. And they're gonna release it as an exclusive concert online. And like AEG is just like, they're gonna be in the area. Like, do you have a spot for them to play? And we're like, yeah, of course. And so that's gonna like part of how it's not just gonna be like an experience that people have here, but also something that people have at home. The John Summit Mountain pop-up concert last year, within like 3 days, had more than 1 million like views online on his YouTube channel. So like, I mean, this is like kind of awesome that we're getting access to artists like this.
So, thank you.
What else? Give me more. This is great.
I think you've taken enough of this.
No, it's good. Hey, seriously, on behalf of like Vail Mountain Beaver Creek Resort and the company, thanks for the feedback. Like, this is all good stuff. We feel it and hear it too. You know, it's a matter of like just getting things moving. And hopefully, you know, you'll start to notice incremental improvements and upgrades all across our resorts, and just back to doing some innovative stuff. You know, you have clients in town, like I think one of the coolest things that we're gonna do this year are the Alpine table at Beaver Creek, so keep your eyes out on that. And then if you need anything, you have my email, please give it to the group and send me questions or feedback or whatever.